Good Sunday evening, folks. I'm NTV Chief Meteorologist Eddie Shear with a weather update for you. Certainly is going to be a busy next 24 to 36 hours across Newfoundland. We've got blizzard conditions on the way for the west coast and southern Labrador. We've got snow on the way for central, ice on the way for central, rain on the way for eastern areas. We've got wind on the way for most areas, and then intense snow squalls across the west coast are likely as we go into tomorrow as well. So let's talk about it in detail in hopefully less than 10 minutes or so. Weather alerts currently in place from Environment Canada. We'll go through them one by one. Blizzard warning in place for the northern peninsula and the west coast for snow and wind tonight through about midday tomorrow. Then the snow squalls take over for areas just to the east of that blizzard warning across parts of the south coast, central, northwestern Newfoundland. A snowfall warning is in place. A blizzard warning is in place from Eagle River through Cartwright and down through Red Bay to Lansinclair and Labrador. We've got a blowing snow advisory for Rigolette and Postville to Makkovik under a special weather statement. Wind warning in place for much of Newfoundland for high winds tomorrow. Many areas are going to see those winds gusting as high as 100 kilometers per hour. Oddly, the strongest winds tomorrow are likely going to be on the northern peninsula in the Straits, and there's no wind warning in place for that area. I suspect that will change at some point tomorrow. Hopefully, I would suspect winds there are going to gust in spots probably over 130 or 140 kilometers per hour. So if you're on the northern peninsula or on the Straits and in the Canada Bay area, which often sees really high winds, be prepared for very strong winds tomorrow. And there's also a snow squall watch in place from Parsons Pond, Hawke's Bay down through Channel Port aux Basques for tomorrow, as once the snow from the low ends, snow squalls will take over, and these are going to be very intense and will drop more significant snow in spots. It's just hard to say where exactly those spots will be. Radar imagery now showing that snow spreading across Newfoundland, coming up from the Maritimes. Even though it's not showing up here across central and western areas, it is snowing there. The radar on the west coast is currently not functioning. That rain snow line we see offshore, that's going to very rapidly push back to the northwest and will work its way about as far northwest as a Fogo to Burgeo line overnight. Areas west of there see predominantly snow. Around that line we'll see snow, ice, and rain, perhaps a prolonged period of ice. And east of that line we see a little bit of snow this evening, followed by significant rainfall as we go into the overnight. Clouds across most of Newfoundland, southern Labrador as well right now, indicating that low is moving in. Wider picture showing the cloud cover extending almost to Florida from this area of low pressure. And just something neat to kind of point out to you, we see this S shape here. That's what we call a baroclinic leaf. That indicates a strengthening low, and that low is currently strengthening and will track right across Newfoundland tomorrow. If this was New England or the eastern part of the U.S., the news media will be calling this a bomb cyclone, which it is. It's a cyclone that deepens 24 millibars in 24 hours, and this will undoubtedly do that. But because we're not there, it's just a strong Newfoundland storm. Newfoundland Labrador storm, strong spring storm if you want to call it, that's going to undergo what you call bombogenesis. Temperatures across the island right now generally below freezing or above freezing in a few spots, but temperatures across the west coast will fall to near freezing once that snow starts. Eastern areas will see temperatures rising rapidly overnight. This buoy 44137 south of Halifax, Nova Scotia, reporting 11 degrees. That warm air is going to surge across eastern areas of Newfoundland overnight. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's FUTURECAST. We'll time this out for us. That rain snow line pushing back across, we'll actually call it the rain ice line, pushing back across the Avalon Peninsula and the Burin Peninsula by midnight. Looks like it's from near Terrenceville to Trinity Bay. At that point, about as far west as Burgeo. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, the rain ice line pushes about as far west as Fogo to Burgeo. And to the west of there, we see ice, prolonged period of ice across interior Newfoundland, and snow across the northern peninsula and the west coast, and snow working its way into southern Labrador by tomorrow morning. As we go into late tonight and midday tomorrow, snow is going to be very heavy at times across the west coast and southern Labrador, combined with blowing winds. That's when we have those blizzard conditions. But by lunchtime tomorrow, once we get east of Grand Falls-Windsor, we're seeing a mix of sun and cloud. The rain is done. It's probably still mild, but it's very, very windy. And those winds are going to pick up pretty strongly for everybody tomorrow afternoon as this low begins to pull away and deepen into the North Atlantic. And also by tomorrow evening, we see the organized snow ending across the west coast, but that's when we see those snow squalls taking over. So more significant snow likely tomorrow afternoon for parts of the west coast under the snow squalls. Southern Labrador, you are still seeing heavy snowfall tomorrow evening, and it all kind of winds down tomorrow night as the low pulls away. Snowfall. Very heavy amounts are going to be found across the western third of Newfoundland, where up to 40 centimeters will fall between tonight and midday tomorrow. Once we get east of there, we're talking about generally less than 15 centimeters of snow. In Labrador, we see most of the snow late tonight through the day tomorrow. And notice for areas like Cartwright down through Mary's Harbor and the Straits, snowfall amounts somewhere between 20 and 40 centimeters. And on the west coast, we will also see snowfall totals rise dramatically for some areas as well, especially as we get close to around Corner Brook and into the higher terrain, where once the significant snow from the low is done, we see intense snow squalls. So some areas are going to see over 50 centimeters of snow by the time this is all said and done tomorrow night into early Tuesday morning. But I'm suspecting the lower elevations are going to be somewhere between 40 and 50 centimeters, perhaps 30 to 50. But again, some areas might see 20 or 30, and some areas might see 50 or 60, and the areas that see 50 or 60 will be the areas that get under those persistent snow squalls and snow bands tomorrow afternoon, as that snow is going to be very, very fluffy and very intense at times. Rainfall going to be relatively impressive for the Avalon and Burin Peninsulas, where rainfall amounts may total 40 millimeters in spots, especially on the southwest Avalon and the Burin Peninsula through Canagra. On the northeast Avalon, it looks like we're talking about 5 to 10 mils of rain, with a risk of thunderstorms as we go into this evening. Highest potential of ice is going to be along the south coast and just inland. This area may see significant ice buildup. Same thing as we get south of Gander and Grand Falls-Windsor and around Terra Nova west of the TCH. But there's not a lot of populated areas once we get west and south of the TCH. So the impact from the ice is probably not going to be overly impressive. And also, when you have very intense precipitation rates, it's hard for ice to build up very efficiently. So I'm not expecting a whole lot of ice buildup with this system, but it's something that we'll be keeping an eye on anyway. As far as the winds go, they're going to really begin to ramp up as we go into midnight and after. And notice as we go into Monday morning, winds on the southeast Avalon may be gusting as high as 120 in Trepassey, 96 in Placentia, perhaps even higher, 84 in Grand Bank, 89 in St. John. So it's going to be a very windy start to our Monday. And those winds will peak, it looks like Monday morning for eastern and northeastern Newfoundland. And if I drag the ticker back here, which of course the computer won't let me do right now, winds across eastern Newfoundland for many areas may gust as high as 100 or 110 tomorrow morning. And then notice here in the Straits, we see this purple color showing up. That's where the high winds are going to be tomorrow afternoon. Wouldn't be surprised if winds along the Straits gust over 120 as we get into tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Notice by tomorrow evening, winds in St. Anthony gusting to 109, Mary's Harbor 109, Port au Choix 83, Gander 93, Fogo perhaps as high as 120 tomorrow evening. So it's going to be pretty nasty tomorrow evening as far as those winds go too. In St. John's, we're still gusting close to 80 as we get into tomorrow evening, and it looks like tomorrow night into Tuesday the winds will drop off and the weather will be much better as we go into Tuesday. So far as temperatures go, that might be the silver lining with this. Notice by 12 o'clock this evening, it's still pretty cool across the island, but notice those southerlies just south of Trepassey. Once those move in, game on for warm temperatures. By 6 o'clock in the morning, look at that, St. Albans it's 10, Clarendon up to 13, Bonavista it's 8, St. John's it's 12, but look at that gradient. Very sharp temperature difference over a short distance between Clarenville it's 13 and Gander it's 1. And even there, temperatures tomorrow morning will rise to 9 or 10 quickly, but the cold air comes back in tomorrow roughly noon, and then we see cooling temperatures holding near freezing by the time we get to Monday evening. So I hope this gave you a good idea as to what we can expect over the next 24 to 36 hours. Again, we've got snow, ice, rain, wind, and mild temperatures on the way in, even a risk of thunder showers for eastern areas overnight as well. So I'll be tracking this tonight and tomorrow, and I'll have more weather updates for you as needed. But until then, have a great evening, stay safe, and good luck digging out if you're going to see the high snow amounts I was talking about.